area back during the old Chuck Harold days. Some of you may remember Chuck. And that sort of was my introduction to Western Tool, was really through him back when we bought the Tool-X Vice line over 20 years ago. And then obviously we're Tico, the T-slot nuts and bolts people, clamping kits. About 5 years ago we purchased the Raptor work holding out of Southern California. We have the rights to Raptor. The original machine shop in Southern California is still manufacturing the Raptor products for us. We do stock it here in Dayton. What we want to show you really with Raptor in particular is it is the dovetail system. And if anybody knows what dovetail is, basically you're taking your raw material, you're going to be putting a dovetail on it, popping it into a fixture, and then you're going to be able to machine it. And the reason you use dovetail is because once you clamp on the dovetail itself, it now allows access to all 5 sides of a part. Then you flip it over and you finish the bottom. Now, sometimes people will ask you, I don't really want to have to do that extra operation to put a dovetail on my raw material. So the first thing I always ask, well, how many operations does it take you now to do your part? So with a part like this, you talk about a big piece of aluminum or steel, you pop it into a vise, and you're going to have to put it into a vise 6 or 7 times to be able to get all the intricate angles. Using the dovetail, and depending on what machine they're putting it on, they're able to do this actually in 1 op, and then obviously put the dovetail on, taking it off is an additional 2 ops, so in 3 operations they can have this part finished. So when anybody sends up the objection of putting on a dovetail, that's the first thing I always ask them.
Say, Scott, can we just take a quick 2 seconds? I think someone wanted to try to explain from a viewing standpoint. Go ahead.
Okay, everybody, if at the top of your screen you should see something that says view. If you click on it, you'll have a couple of options. If you click on view active camera, you'll actually make him the large screen so you can see everything that he's holding up. That's all I wanted to share.
Oh, sure, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Did anybody not hear that? You can click in or holler at us if you did not hear the instruction on how to make it a full screen.
Awesome. Continue.
Okay. So anyway, one of the objections I was telling you about, people don't like to prep their part. So like I was saying, you ask them how many operations does it take you now to do this part. Once they tell you it's 7 or 8 options or operations, and you can get it down to 3, sometimes that gets them thinking a little bit more towards the dovetail type fixturing. The other advantage dovetail has is by holding it, you're going to get 0 lift. You can knock your spindle into the part once it's held at a dovetail fixture. It's not going to move. It's not going to fall out like it would in your standard vise. So basically the rigidity factor and also being able to access 5 sides of the part. And that's not unique to Raptor. That's just unique to dovetail fixturing in general. What Raptor has done with that, because dovetail has been around for a long time. People have been using your little single station Kurtz and putting dovetails in jaws for a long time. So it's not anything new and exciting for your end users. However, what Raptor has done is taking a lot of the engineering out of putting what kind of dovetail a guy needs to do for his vise. And by that I mean we've come up with a variety of risers depending on what machine tool the customer is using, what indexer they're using, and all the different risers will integrate with our Raptor fixtures. Again, why would you need risers? Well, this is all part of the area that's called 5-axis work holding, which is the big buzzword. People are buying their 5-axis machines, and traditionally with the 5-axis machine you've got a smaller pallet, not one of the big ones. There are some out there that have the bigger pallets, but the majority of our pallets are anywhere between 100 and 200 millimeter in diameter. And with the 5-axis machine, some of you may be familiar with them, some of you may not. For those of you who are not familiar with 5-axis, the pallet itself will spin, it also tilts, and it goes side to side. So you're able to get basically all 5 axes of your part in a machining area. So and with the pallets being the size that they are, the small, obviously you can't be putting in a big single station vise in most instances. Obviously you can see it's not going to fit on a pallet like this. So what Raptor did they bought some Matsura machines. And all the Matsura machines have a pallet that's this size, about 6 inches. Well, then they try to figure out what it is they're going to put on it. So a lot of trial and error. They came out with this is the RWP 001. So this was the very first fixture that they built. And of course it fits right into their Matsura pallet. So now when it moves around and goes from side to side and past 90 degrees, they've got a fixture now that holds their part, and now they can run lights out. And that's how it kind of just developed out in Southern California in the beginning. So that's why, number one, that's also why you see round fixtures. They also developed quite a few different size fixtures. This one in particular is a dovetail fixture that's 1.5 inches. And we say 1.5 inches, that's actually the size of the dovetail here that you would put on your part is 1.5 inches. We go up to roughly 2 3/4 inch dovetail fixture. And this one's a 2 1/4 inch, all the way down. I'm going to show them this one, down to roughly a 1/4 inch fixture. As you can see how small it is. And what's nice about this whole system is I can have one adapter plate on my machine, and I can start out with 1.5 inch dovetail fixture on my machine. I can go ahead and start machining my parts and put my, and all of a sudden now I get another project coming where I don't need one quite so big. So what's nice about the Raptor system, I can now go down to a 1/2 inch one. It comes with I can do a 1/2 inch or 3/4 adapter that has the 1.5 inch dovetail already on the bottom, and lock it into place. So now I can do a smaller part with the smaller dovetail on the bottom and lock it into place, and I'm without having to tear apart my entire fixture off the machine. And I can actually do that with even the small one. Also has a dovetail on the bottom as well, so I can build it up and get up into the smaller fixture. Like I said, in just a matter of minutes, I can start machining a smaller part or tearing it down and going back to my original size. We also have some direct mount units. And what I mean by direct mount units, if you'll notice, I'll just have Nick show you, these actually have a dowel pin hole and a socketed cap screw hole in it. So you can pop those onto a fixture plate, you can pop them onto a tombstone, you can build your own fixture. You can also buy the adapter plate for this to bolt onto, and it comes with two different size dovetails on the bottom, so then it also can fit onto your fixture if you needed to. One thing I bring up with this direct mount, one of our larger areas that we see Raptor in is actually medical, and we do have a customer that has bought, I'm going to say, a couple hundred of this size, and these are the same ones. They're just different lengths, but they're the same one. And I've got a customer that's bought a couple hundred of each one, and they built their own 8-sided little mini tombstones themselves and bolted these on all the different faces to do fixture whatever needs to be fixtured. And that was their own design. So we did provide the fixture, but they did the design of their own little dedicated fixture themselves. The other nice thing about the way the Raptor system works, not only can you go down sizes, but now if you want to do multi-parts, this happens to be a 4-sided little tombstone, comes with an 1.5 inch dovetail on the bottom. So now that once you've got your fixture on your machine, I can put that in, lock it down, and now I can do 4 pieces at a time of another different part. I can take this off real quick. If I need to do a different angle, this happens to be a 45-degree angle, also with a 1.5 inch dovetail on the bottom. And it fits on here just like that. We also have another, this is a 4-sided fixture here, but this one is a little bit different. It's a direct mount to the base plate itself. Because you notice this plate has a female hole in it, this has the male. So it actually fits right onto the risers themselves, just like that's a direct mount to the riser. And what's unique about this one is the fixture that they're using here is actually a 5C collet fixture. So this can actually be used in your lathe if you need to. It can be mounted into your other fixtures that you might want to make. In fact, we have a customer in Florida that liked this idea, but they made their own little 3-sided pyramid and installed these in it because they needed to do a little longer part and it wouldn't work on a 4-sided. if you've got a 5C indexer, Haas has a 5C indexer that goes on a vertical Haas, or vertical machine for that matter. This has got a female thread in it. It threads onto your indexer. Then this gets mounted into the nose so that you can actually sort of use a little lathe type application on your 5C indexer. Do we have any questions so far? Now in the catalog, and you may already have the Raptor catalog, but we can easily email you the electronic copy, or Phil and Andrew can get you the hard copies. We have the risers I was just showing you. In the catalog though, this will tell you what some of the indexers these fit on. For instance, this one right here only goes on the Haas 100mm indexers, and it'll give you the numbers in the catalog which one that fits on. Same with this fixture here. This one fits on the TRT 100 for the Haas, and it was designed by Gene Haas. He is the one who designed this in the beginning because the bottom of it just fits the Haas indexer. It's a very low profile, as you can see, and it's a lot less weight than some of the other fixtures. He was worried about the weight on his indexer, and so that's why he designed one that kind of looks like that. Coming back to our dovetail itself, most of you, if you're selling cutting tools, you probably have a dovetail cutter, an indexable dovetail cutter that you've got out there. Our dovetails are a little bit different. We've got our own dovetail cutters. Basically, they're doing the same thing as far as they go in and they make the dovetail. What this does, though, it breaks the edge. I don't know if you can show them that. It breaks the edge of the dovetail on your workpiece so that it's kind of rounded, because you don't want a sharp point of your fixture or of your part going into the dovetail fixture for a couple reasons. Number one, if you've got a sharp point going into the corner of our dovetail fixture, it doesn't seat properly. It's trying to come up and rest on something, and it becomes uneven. So somebody will call and say, hey, my parts are moving. And the first question I ask, are you using our dovetail cutter? And 100% of the time, they're not using our dovetail cutter, because our dovetail cutter is specifically designed here, to break the edge of the dovetail. And they do come in various sizes. They come coated and uncoated. And these are made in California also. We also have a self-centering vise in the Raptor line. And this happens to be our 4-inch version. We also have a 6-inch version. The jaws, you can take these carrier jaws off and reverse them if you want. We've got machinable jaws that go on them, but we also have inserts that go into the edge that's in here, and you bolt them in. You can put Mighty Bite pit bull clamps on here, or Talon grip clamps. You can put our inserts. We've got serrated, we've got a dovetail, and then these are just regular parallel inserts that go into the top, and you just lock them in place. These also, and I'm going to transition over to, most of you are probably familiar that we are also the North American distributor for the Piranha 0-point system. What I wanted to show you is this vise, and our fixtures, the Raptor fixtures, come with the tapped holes so that you can put locating pins on the bottom of them. And then that allows you to put these into our Piranha 0-point system. So they'll fit into the adapter plates of the Piranha system. So it's
that's really the versatility where we talked about in the beginning about the 0 plate, what that offers. Right there is a highlight of that, how versatile we are across the products we offer.
And what's nice, if you got Raptor customers already out there and they're using the risers, this plate here has Raptor mounting on the bottom, and it mounts to our risers, the Raptor risers, and now we can use our Piranha 0-point system on the risers that your customer already have. Do we have any questions so far?
Yeah, so there was a good question on asking about the 0-point plate. Absolutely.
Did I answer that question, I guess?
It was just a request to make sure we touch on that.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, the other question, too, on the dovetail, we always get asked about our competition on the dovetail. And I'm going to be honest with you, on our dovetail system, the Raptor product, we really don't have a strong competitor in this line. Fifth Axis, you'll say, well, Fifth Axis has dovetail. They do. They dedicate about 2 pages in their whole catalog on a couple of their dovetail fixtures. the biggest advantage we have versus them, you'll notice all of our not all of them, but the majority of our dovetail fixtures, how many clamps can you see holding your part? All of these fixtures you see here, we're using 2 clamps to hold down your part. The majority of the 5th axis dovetail fixtures use 1 clamp right in the middle. So the sturdiness and the rigidity of our fixtures when it's holding apart is much greater because we're using the 2 clamps to hold your part in versus just 1. That is the biggest advantage that we have. And additionally, the way ours stack up, as I just showed you, is another advantage, and also the breadth of our product line. We've got about 30 pages in our catalog of the dovetail type applications. Now, I will say with the 5th axis, when we compete with 5th axis, really it's more on the self-centering vise. That is really where we run into them. We really never run into them a whole lot on the dovetail type items that we're talking about today. One of the other questions we get, we just had it this morning, is what's the repeatability of taking your part off, putting it back on? How does it repeat? And I will tell you, when this product line was developed in the beginning, it was a one-off product. You mill your dovetail, you hold it in your fixture, you mill your part, you're done. You take it off, and then you finish the bottom somewhere else, or you pop that off. So there's no repeatability because you're not bringing the part on and off onto your fixture. However, now we've been seeing people taking their part, they're machining it, they take it off, take it to the CMM on the exact same setup, inspect it, bring it back over here, and reintroduce it to the original fixture and finish their machining. So they need it to repeat. So what we've had to do, we actually machine the locating pin, and it's within a 1/2 thousandths is what we hold it to. So that the other question would be, the customer has to be a little bit more accurate on when he puts his slot into this dovetail on his part. That kind of dictates how tight it's going to fit onto our fixture. So ours is within a 1/2 thousandths, and it's up to the end user then to figure out how tight he wants to hold it for repeatability.
So we had a question come in, Scott. You
Yeah.
said, what is the disadvantage against 5th?
The disadvantage?
Yeah.
On the Raptor type, the dovetail, I don't see where we have a disadvantage with 5th axis at all.
Okay.
I will put any of our Raptor products up against the 5th axis dovetail products, not their 0-point product, or not their vise products, their dovetail products. We also offer them in stainless steel or aluminum. So we're also, and they only offer theirs just in steel, just one type of material. And like I said, we have the 2 clamps that hold the majority of our parts onto our fixtures with, which makes it a much sturdier dovetail situation than the competitors. Hope that answered your question on that.
Yeah, good question.
I guess getting back to the disadvantage, I would say maybe the only disadvantage is that when we do talk about stainless steel fixtures, they do run a little bit higher than the 5th axis. But when you come to the aluminum, we're right in that same ballpark. But as far as getting this out, and when the customer uses ours versus the 5th axis, there's no question which one they will go with. Any other questions? Hopefully that answered everything and got you into thinking about more fixturing options.
Right. Well, I think one of the things that we'll touch on here to close things out, when we mentioned up front about the lights out manufacturing, one of the things that's not specific to Raptor in general, but we have what they call the coolant line. And as a part of the lights out manufacturing, one of the things that we found or discovered was a challenge was the cooling side of it, and some of the challenges they were having coming in after a full night of operating the machinery. And Scott will touch on here what our coolant line offers.
The coolant line is part of our Piranha 0-point system, which I haven't showed you guys on that yet, but it's made in Switzerland, and he was making his self-centering vices and his risers, and he was running the coolant line. We'd come back in the morning and his plastic coolant line would be up into the ceiling throwing coolant. It would be busted, the ends would be popped off, and so he couldn't run his full pressure on his coolant anymore. He had to get it down to less than 100 psi so that the coolant line wouldn't flap in the wind. So what he finally decided, he's going to make his own. So he developed the Piranha coolant line, and it's anodized aluminum. It goes up to 1100 psi. It's not stainless steel. We have a competitor out there that does make it in stainless steel. However, this is more modular. You just unscrew the components. It's kind of like an erector set. You have all different kinds of components, and they all intertwine with each other, and you just tighten them up. And you can get them as tight or as loose as you want them. You can get them real loose if you want, but as you tighten them up, this is going to run all night and not move. We have a variety of different nozzle sizes. We have multi-port nozzles. We have open hole nozzles. We've got 45 or 60 and 90 degree angle nozzles. We've got Ys, Vs, ball valves, different length spacers to get your parts as far away as you need to. We have coolant rings, just a whole variety of different components, and they come in 1/8 inch IDs, 1/4 inch, and 1/2 inch IDs. We have demo kits out there in the West Coast for you guys if you got a customer that would like to run a test. I will tell you that's the best way to get this into your customer's hands is you need to do a test. They need to be able to try it. We offer a 30-day trial. The same with the Raptor products. 30-day trial, get it out into the customer's hand, let them play with it, let them see how they like it. And I guarantee you, if you can get the product on the machine, you can see the difference immediately, because what they're using now, obviously you've got the lock line plastic, but the most success we've had with the coolant line has been on lathe applications, where they're using copper tubing and they're bending copper tubing all over their lathe. And when you bend copper tubing, once you bend it, you've kinked it, so you've automatically lost pressure just as soon as you've installed it. The lathes also have little brass balls that are sort of put into the tool heads. They're just a little brass ball with a hole in it, so it just spews coolant wherever it is aimed.
Great.
We also have the solution for that because we have some tooling balls of ourselves that'll go into that same spot, but we've got angled heads on the end, or we've got threaded adapters, so you can thread this out of there into where you need to instead of using the copper tubing. And we're going to be doing a seminar on that on Friday, and also next Friday, a webinar which will be out in the shop actually showing you how it looks when we've installed it and how it works.
So we had a question come in here, Scott, around pinch blocks.
Yeah.
So maybe we can touch on a few things on the pinch blocks.
This is pinch blocks right here. This was designed with a dovetail on the bottom. We've got there's a 1/2 inch or an 1.5 inch one on this one. So basically, when you're done with your product, this was designed by Raptor to go ahead and put on another Raptor fixture. And this is aluminum. It's got a slit in it with a socketed cap screw going right through the middle. So you put your part in and crank it down, and it's going to hold your part. So you would mill your profile of whatever your part would be. So you put your part in when you're done, and it was really designed to put the part in kind of backwards so that you could mill off the dovetail and finish it out. That's what it was designed for. As we've sold these around now, people are using them more as like a little mini vise with your Raptor fixture already on your machine. It's because you can machine a little profile here, and when you mill your profile, you can put your part in it and lock it down, with your socketed cap screw. So I wouldn't be doing a hard milling on it with just the cap screw holding it down. But if you're doing something simple, it's just a quick little mini vise, basically, for lack of a better term, to hold another part and to fixture it so that you quickly do it without tearing out your whole components off your machine.
Good question.
These come in different sizes as well. In the catalog or on the website, you'll see different sizes of these. Any other questions?
Looks good.
So I did that hopefully with minimal amount of time. I didn't, we can go 2 or 3 hours if you like, but I didn't figure that'd be real helpful.
No, you did great. I would say the next step would be, I sent the link, but I did notice that on the link it said 2013. Is there a more recent catalog?
Yes, we had one in there. There's a 2019 one.
Okay, we need to get that out to our team so they can, maybe Andrew or somebody can get it to myself, and then I'll share it with everybody.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I would say maybe sending us a couple of links to YouTube videos would not hurt on the same email. That way they have something that they can put together.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Now, when it comes to doing demos and things for customers face to face, or even now with the situation that we have virtually, if I can put it that way. What's the program in-house when it comes to a customer wanting to put this on his machinery, and if it's something that doesn't completely satisfy him, or is there like a 30-day time limit? Or is there anything you can express to the team to let them know how it would work if they wanted to get somebody to give them an opportunity?
Yeah, and I would stress with your team, obviously make sure you get Phil and Daryl and Andrew involved if the guy's doing a 30-day trial, so they can, you know, help monitor that out in the field. And if the guy's not happy with it, they can go in and say, okay, why aren't you happy? Is it because you haven't ever used it? Or, you know, it's imperative that those three people get involved with the end user. But basically, you're sending us a test PO for the amount, for whatever items they're using, and then we enter that into our system as a 30-day trial. And then at the end of that 30 days, you know, we're like, hey, what are they going to buy it? Are they going to return it? What's the status? What's the update? And if they're going to keep it, then, you know, you just pay the invoice.
Okay. The only other question I think that I would have would be, who do you see as a main competitor to have our team be looking for? And also, as a follow-up to that question, who do you tend to see yourselves replacing at customers more often, just so they get an idea of brand recognition when they're walking into an account, for some of those people that don't have?
On the Raptor dovetail stuff, really, I mean, Kurt and Juergens have a dovetail system, but I'll be honest with you, and I know Phil may have some information on that too. I've never seen a Juergens or Kurt dovetail system in the field. I'm sure they're out there. They have them in their catalog, but I've never seen one. The only dovetails that I've seen out there really are 5-axis. And I don't see many, like I said, the dovetail, if they're doing dovetail, I don't see a lot of those either, but 5-axis would probably be the name brand that you would see as a competitor. Now, when it comes to the self-centering vise, any of the self-centering vices or the 0-point type system, it would be Lang or 5-axis. Lang is from Germany. They've been around longer than anybody as far as the 0-point type system. And I'm not sure when Schunk came into the business, or Big Kaiser. They have their own type version of 0-point. But as far as the 4-stud 0-point system, really we see Lang and 5-axis are the only ones out there that we really run into a lot.
Now, there was a great point made here. We do offer a crossover for most machine tools, and that's, again, one of those things that we have our application engineer here, that if there is in question, we can always get details and provide a crossover. So,
yeah, I would say, based on the statements that you just made, Scott, I would say our main focus at the Western Tool level would be definitely any information you could provide, or if you get time to work on direct crossover part numbers, it would be the Lang information. We definitely would want to attack that market as much as possible to help grow business for you. So
sure,
just something to consider for the future. But
absolutely,
guys, really well done, straight on point, right on time. Couldn't ask for anything better than that. We really thank you for your time, and I believe more opportunities to start work on.
Hey, one thing I want to mention that too. This is just you guys on this webinar. You know, we don't have 500 other distributors or end users on. It's just you guys. And we can tailor these webinars to what your needs are. So if you've got a branch in Anaheim that's got a customer that would like to see the demo, let us know. We can do this in the spur of the moment and get, you know, 4 or 5 of the engineers and an end user and go over the product that way, especially now since you can't get in and see most people. So just bear that in mind.
Right.
Because I mean, our desks are right outside the door here. We can get this up and running, you know, in just minimal amount of time. If you've got a guy that's got an issue or has a question, or use FaceTime and get us on the phone so we can see what you're looking at and we can help walk them through. But I will say the best way to sell this stuff, and obviously I don't need to tell you guys how to do your job, but when it comes to the Raptor stuff, basically the way we do it, we usually get an inquiry based on a guy's got a part and an indexer. You know, what do you have? So they usually have an open-ended question. How can you get me up and running on my new indexer or my new machine. And so from that we say, okay, here's your quote, and here's the items, here's the step files, and next thing you know, you got the purchase order. So that's basically how we go about that. So.
Well done. Really appreciate your time. Hope you guys have a great day and everybody stay safe. And thank you again.
Thank you guys.
And
Appreciate it.
We're going to leave the chat open too. I did see someone said open the chat to attendee list. So if you have a question, by all means, that or speak up. Either way, we're open to. We'll keep it open for a few more minutes. Thank you for your time today.
You can take our picture down so we can see who's all logged on, I guess. Is there a question?
35 people.
Mhm.
It's pretty good.
Is there a question? I thought I saw that screen move.
And he said, please open up the chat and attendee list to all of us, which it is open. Still recording.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
We're closing out. It's pretty good.